And a very good evening, everybody. Welcome to Mythical Ireland Book Talk. I'm Anthony Murphy. You're very welcome along. Hope everybody is keeping safe and well in the ongoing situation. So, another of our series of book talks tonight, continuing with dipping into one of the many titles here in the Mythical Ireland Library. Now, tonight's episode, it has to be said, is a little bit of a crossover between Book Talk and Live Irish Myths. This could easily actually be an episode of Live Irish Myths. So forgive me if it's a sort of a crossover. I know you won't mind. I actually really know that you won't mind. We're going to talk tonight about a very nice book. I'd love to have been present at the lectures upon which the book is based. Of course, all of that was a long time ago now. But in terms of, we've done quite a lot of episodes about mythology pertaining to popular translations of Irish mythical episodes, Irish mythic episodes. And I want to balance that out with doing some of the scholarly. And so Miles Dillon and the contributors for the book, which is based on, as I say, a series of lectures in question, would have been the eminent scholars of their time. And we're talking about a generation ago. But I think if you want to be a student in any sense of Irish myths, you really can't just read the likes of Thomas Kinsella's Táin and Lady Gregory's Gods and Fighting Men, etc., etc. It behoves you to also dig a little bit deeper in terms of scholarly research. Anyway, as usual, I have sort of no strict plan for the episode except for to talk around. Actually, I'll do a bit of reading because I think we're going to talk specifically about one story in that collection of lectures, which is, I think you'll find very inspiring. I'll just make a very brief slight adjustment to the YouTube camera, and I do apologize to all the viewers. Good evening, everybody. Anyway, over on YouTube, Vicky Southall is on YouTube tonight. Hello, Vicky. And I wonder if Evan is there with Chile. Good evening to all of you. Hope you're all safe and well and keeping well with everything that's going on. On Facebook, Nick Esker Casterton is saying, hi, Anthony. Hello, Nick. Tranonawa, August Falche. Federica Guy is in the house, says, hi, Anthony. Hello, Federica. Welcome along. Christy Goodlett says, good Monday morning to you from sunny Queensland, Australia. Wonderful stuff. Fantastic to see you, Christy. I should say, sort of unrelated, that yesterday morning, I was doing some of my ham radio, and I managed to make contact into Australia with 7 different stations in Australia, which is an indication that conditions, I'm just cleaning my glasses as I speak, conditions on the amateur radio frequencies are improving. As I say, made 7 contacts in total. And I also made a contact into New Zealand this week, which was nice. So I consider it a great pleasure to make any kind of contact with my friends on the other side of the world. But good morning to you. It's Sunday evening here in Ireland. Of course, it is 10 to 10 p.m. here in Ireland. Carolyn Gogus is in the house and says, hello. Well, Karen, what can I say? It is my greatest pleasure to welcome you to on Laurelin Morchu, the library, the Murphy Library, on Laurelin Mythologicht Éireann, the mythical or the mythological library here. Donna Jean Porter says, good afternoon. Hello, Donna Giaguch. Welcome along. Gabriella T.G. says, hello, Giaguch. Gabriella, welcome along. Mariana Dunn is in the house. Good evening, Anthony, and everyone joining from Virginia. And anyone joining from Virginia. We're always very proud to have the Virginians in the house, especially those from Virginia in the USA, but equally those in Virginia and County Cavan here in Ireland. Kristen Murray Endre says, I'm loving these book talks, Anthony, and being with the Tua is a kind of bonus. Many thanks from Chicago. We have entered a lockdown which prohibits us from exiting our county, but our government is apparently about to put us into even more severe restrictions, and that's because the daily number of cases reported today, which I presume was for yesterday, was the highest that it has been on any single day since the whole thing has started. So unfortunately, we're not just sort of seeing a rise in cases. We're actually we're breaking the records here, unfortunately. So it looks like we're going to have more severe lockdown restrictions imposed upon us in the coming 24 hours. So it seems like an apt thing to do. We're all indoors. Let's try and keep ourselves company at the very least and uplift ourselves with stories from old Ireland. How does that sound? Laura Puente says, good afternoon. Nice, brisk, rainy Sunday. Feels like I am in Ireland. Well, Laura, grab a pew, make a brew or a dram, whatever you want yourself. Picture yourself in front of a blazing fire, surrounded by good friends. The Tua of Live Irish Myths, the Tua of the Mythical Ireland live stream. Hi, everyone. Great timing for book talk, says Barb Jordan. Well, I'm glad you think so. It's good for me because it's 10 o'clock at night. People are starting to go to bed here and the house is a little bit quieter. Charlie Grover says, hello, Giaguch. Charlie, good evening to you. Kimberly Och Almuden says, wonderful. Well, let's hope so. Let's hope we can live up to that billing. Vicky Wallace-Southall is also on Facebook and says, hello, my lovely friends. Hello. Hello, Evan and Chili, if you're there. Good evening to you. Anne McCallum is in the house. Hello, Anthony. Book talk and story time. Just the thing. Glad that you're here to share it with us, Anne, as one of Mythical Ireland's great supporters. Lovely to see you. Veronica Casey says, hi, Anthony and Tua. Fáilte, Veronica. Alan Hoskins says, hi, all from a wet and windy Ballina, Killaloe, County Tipperary. Well, it hasn't started raining here yet, Alan, but I suspect it's not too far away. Anyway, stay safe and stay warm and dry. Let's all hunker down for a nice story time. Barbara King says, hi, everyone. Nice Sunday surprise. Yeah, I'll do them when I can do them. I don't want to commit myself to do them every day, but we'll do them as regularly as time allows. Larissa Kama says, hello, beautiful Tua and handsome Anthony. It's so good to see everyone this wonderful fall Sunday. Hello, Larissa. Good evening to you. Banachti. Anne-Marie Wilson says, hello, Sláinte, Anne-Marie. Donna Jean Porter. My first grandchild will be arriving in April 2021. Wonderful news, Donna. Congratulations. That's brilliant. And something to be cheerful about amidst all of what's going on in the world at the moment. It's delightful news. Congratulations and our best wishes to you and your family. Christy Goodlet says, fantastic. Good stuff. Evan and Chili are waving. Hello. Kaylee During says, hi, Anthony. I hope you're doing good. Sorry, COVID restrictions limit you from going to your favorite place in the world, sending good vibes. As it happens, I do have a considerable archive of material. I've been sharing some of that this week, and of course, I will continue to try to do that. They're talking about 6 weeks of lockdown, which will take us sort of into Samhain and beyond. It'll take us almost into December. So look, let's just keep the fingers crossed, you know. Kerem Gogus, pleasure is all mine, as always, brother. I love books and libraries since I was a little kid, always fascinated by them. That makes two of us, Kerem. Absolutely. Kim Ryan is sharing a link. I wonder, is that the link to Lar Dooley's GoFundMe? If it is, good, because Lar is trying to get his book published and needs to raise some money to do that. So maybe if you can help him, that would be brilliant. Bernadette McCafferty says, hello from Donegal. Conasata to Bernadette. Hello, Trnonawa o Gondailu agus an Drohid Aha e Glan na Bonia. Donna Jean Porter says, a girl. Wonderful stuff. Leslie Harvey says, hi from County Armagh. Hello, Leslie, with all our best wishes to Gondai Ardwacha from Gondailu. Breathless Dicer says, hello from Turkey. Nice to listen to you. Well, there you go, Kerem. You're not the only one now. We're always delighted to be joined by our Turkish friends. Snapper Earl says, finally back to a live one. Hello, everyone from Rosendale, New York. It's been a while, Snapper Earl. It really has. But we are absolutely chuffed to see you. Welcome to the house. Welcome to the library. Joanne Wolf says, thanks so much for this. It's my great pleasure, Joanne, I can assure you. But thank you anyway. Donna Firer says, it's a beautiful Sunday here in Maryland. Hello, everyone. Brilliant stuff, Donna. Perhaps you could send a little bit of that sunshine over this way. Doris O'Hara says, hello, Anthony. Nice to see you all. Sláinte, Doris. Federica Guy says, it's the first time I can watch the live episode quietly. Kids are sleeping. Let's hope it stays that way, Federica. Mariana Dunn is waving. Ralph Waldron says, hello from Ath League. Hello, Ralph. Kaylee During. I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. I'm going to film tomorrow for Nouth. You'll hear from me before I upload, of course. Enjoy your book talk. I'll be going to bed soon. It's 2,300 hours and I need to be rested. Haha. Completely understand, Kaylee. No problem. And of course, the videos are saved afterwards, so you can watch back later. Linda Moore says, QTH, Southern Alberta, Canada. Greetings, everyone. Hello, Linda. And of course, QTH is ham speak for my location. Great to see the Albertans in the house. Carmel Flahavan says, hello from West Cork, a most beautiful part of Ireland. Wonderful. You're welcome, Carmel. Liam Kavanagh says, hi, Gia Glitch, Liam. Yvette Tillema is in the house. Yeah, hi all. Hello, Yvette. Paul Campbell is speaking to Alan Hoskins. I know Andrew, who runs Pontevicio Cafe restaurant in Killaloe, where you are. Brilliant. Small world, isn't it? And on YouTube, Ancient Gale says, hello, Anthony. Love your channel. Love from Northern Ireland. Well, Ancient Gale, thank you very much. And you're very welcome along. Thank you for joining us. I thought you were going to say you made contact with aliens, lol. No, but some of you may know I was featured on an episode of Ancient Aliens on the History Channel. I was at great pains to tell the producers of the program that I don't believe that aliens built Newgrange. Daisy Peters is in the house, says, hi, Anthony and all. Have a beautiful evening Sunday. Well, Daisy, you too. And it's always a delight to see you. Sandrine Brady is in the house. Bonsoir, Sandrine. Hey, Anthony, surprise reading. I thought I would go to bed early, but impossible, it seems. Smiley face. Yeah, well, I'm sorry if I'm keeping you from going to bed, but, you know, I suppose there are worse things. Judy McQueen says, hello, Falcha Judy. One brief announcement. Yeah, Ancient Aliens, I think it was season 3, episode 13. Let me just Google that while I'm... Ancient Aliens, season 3, episode 13. Aliens and the Secret Code. Yeah, it's funny, you know, but on the one hand, I consider it sort of a feather in my cap, and on the other hand, you know, it's the sort of thing that certain people might slag me about. But anyway, I don't mind. I was there to talk about Newgrange. They asked me there as an expert on Newgrange. I don't know where they got that idea from. And I was quite happy to take part, and it was brilliant. They were really, really brilliant to work with, actually. The whole premise of Ancient Aliens, though, you know, like, we know enough from the archaeological record to suggest that it was, in fact, human beings who built all these things. They didn't need alien intervention, you know. But anyway, my mom watching Ancient Aliens too, says Karen. And I told her that, look, my mom, I know this dude. Karen, what are we going to do about you and I being virtual friends for all these years? It's at least 15 years. It's more, actually. I think it's 16 or 17 years. When did you do your Newgrange 3D model? Was that your art? Was that 2004, 2003, that sort of time? That's how long we know each other. And we've never met in person. But I hope and pray and aspire to the time when we can do that. Mark Monoz says, hello all. Hello, Mark. Great to see you. Tonight we're talking about, before we start, one announcement is that after a little bit of delay, more down to the fact that I couldn't choose 12 photos, and I agonized over it. The Mythical Ireland calendar went to print on Friday. A little bit later than I had expected, but it's still well ahead of schedule, because the original schedule was it was to be published in mid-November. It's looking like I will have calendars for distribution before the end of the month. So I just want to say, if you haven't yet pre-ordered your calendar, remember that if you pre-order your calendar on the Mythical Ireland website, sorry, I'm just going to paste that in as a link as to where to order, as a comment beneath the video here. If you pre-order your calendar, you are also automatically entered into a draw for the wonderful book, out of print book, The Field Names of County Meath, which is a fabulous piece of scholarly work running to 400 pages, full of colour pictures and maps and wonderful information. So everybody who pre-orders gets entered into a draw for The Field Names of County Meath. So the calendar, as I say, all going well, I'll have them. If I don't have them before next weekend, I'll have them early the following week. Okay. So get your order in. I'm getting a limited number printed. So just make sure that you get one. And it'll be a lovely thing to have hanging on your wall. It's an interesting thing when you go through your photographs and you try to select. Of course, you have to also select for the seasons. So the winter ones are a bit more wintry and the summer ones are a bit more summery and all the rest. But to try to have a decent representation of the various monuments. And as I say, I agonized in a few cases over which photos to use. It's an A3 calendar. So a portrait A3 with the spring along the top and you flip over, So it's lengthways. And the top half of the page has the image and the bottom half has the calendar. I think if you look at that link that I just sent, there is a preview of one of the calendar pages, which is July, which shows you what it looks like on the inside. And the cover, of course, is that wonderful evocative image of Sheed and Broga, Newgrange, with the mist in the background. And also, as usual, I have to in every episode mention that the patrons of Mythical Ireland are, of course, always being treated to a little bit extra. If you want to become a patron, please consider supporting Mythical Ireland at the link that I'm just pasting there, patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. Tonight, book talk is about Irish Sagas, which is edited by Miles Dillon. So this was based on a series of lectures that were given, I think in the 1960s or 70s. Let me have a look. Yeah, it's published 1968. So I'm going to give an introduction to it. I'm going to talk about the chapters that are in it, and then we're going to read from the story of Mac Datho's pig, and I hope that you enjoy that. These essays were originally broadcast as a series of Thomas Davis lectures. The editor, Miles Dillon, and 10 other leading Celtic scholars, D.A. Binchy, R.A. Brannock, James Carney, Nora K. Chadwick, David Green, Gerard Murphy, M.A. O'Brien, Brian O'Queeve, Maureen O'Daly, and E.G. Quinn, my apologies, provide an introduction to the prose tales of ancient Ireland. Through their translations of these heroic sagas, a vivid picture emerges of the worlds of the mythological cycle, with stories of the pre-Christian gods, the Ulster cycle of tales of great warriors, the Fenian cycle of inspiring noble youth, and the kingly cycle in which some historical figures have been vested with the immortality of legend. It's a wonderful publication. I imagine, and I'm going to, again, I'm always, on the book talk, I'm going to encourage you to use ABE books. Some of you will love Amazon, some of you will hate Amazon, and it's entirely up to yourselves, what service you use. I have used ABE books for a long number of years to make purchases. So I'm just looking here at Miles Dillon. Actually, there's just one there. There's just one copy there. It's priced at £5 sterling. I'm looking at abebooks.co.uk. £5 sterling and shipping £3.90 within the United Kingdom. So all told, that'll cost you what? Less than £9 if you order it. There may be other copies of it available on Amazon. By and large, I would try to when I see stuff like this, I grab it. I'm lucky that I've managed to secure out of print works. And remember, this is a generation ago. All of those names would be very familiar to anybody who studied Irish mythology and medieval Ireland. They were the leading scholars of that era. And the names jump out at you. D.A. Binchy, for instance, I think his name was Daniel Anthony Binchy. He was very well known for his major work on the Brehon laws, on the old law tracts, of which there are extremely copious amounts. Nora Chadwick would be a very well-known name. Gerard Murphy, Brian O'Keefe, we mentioned on one of our recent book talk episodes. So these are all sort of leading scholars of their time. And so the publication is edited by Miles Dillon, but of course each of the authors, basically what they did was they presented a lecture as part of this as a Thomas Davis lecture series, and then those lectures were basically turned into printed chapters for this book. A brilliant idea. So it means that if you weren't present at the time, 1960s, I wasn't alive, I'm glad to say, that we now have them in print every autumn, winter, and spring since September 1953. Of course, this was written in 1968. Radio Éireann, that's RTE Radio, has been broadcasting half-hour lectures named in honour of Thomas Davis. Inspired by one of his famous sayings, quote, "Educate that you may be free," unquote. The aim of these lectures has been to provide in popular form what is best in Irish scholarship and the sciences. And I believe that this presents us with one of those rare opportunities to read scholarly work that has been written for the popular audience. In other words, it's not completely soaked with obscure, it's not drenched in obscure language. Most of the lectures have been in series. Many have been in single broadcasts. Some have been in English, some in Irish. In the comparatively short time that has passed since they were initiated, the lectures have dealt with many aspects and with many centuries of Irish social life, history, science, and literature. The lecturers, distinguished for their special learning at home and abroad, have been drawn from many nations, but mainly from Ireland. And I'm just going to read out the chapter list, and I will comment on where we have done episodes of live Irish myths, and of course, where we haven't, perhaps future episodes of live Irish myths and or book talk here. Aaron Durrett is in the house. Hey, just joined in. Thanks for this, Anthony. You're very welcome, Aaron. Always a great pleasure. Linda Moore is saying Thrift Books USA may have this volume. Yeah, thanks for the tip, Linda. Barbara Murphy is there too. Hello, Barbara. Thank you for the link, says Bernadette. No problem, my pleasure. So, Tochmark Etain is the first lecture, and that was delivered by Miles Dillon himself. We have done, of course, we've done 2 episodes at least on Tochmark Etain. Caught My Chura, we did very early on in Live Irish Myths. That one was presented by Brian O'Keefe. Extra Fergusa MacLeachy by D.A. Binchy was the next one. And we haven't, so that's a future episode. Extra being an adventure, the adventure of Fergusa MacLeachy. So we'll do that one as a future episode of Live Irish Myths, perhaps. Longus MacNushny, we definitely have done the exile of the sons of Ishnach, as you know. And that was presented by E.G. Quinn. Fled Brickrin, or Brickrew's Feast, by M.A. O'Brien. Scéala Muiche Mac Datho, which is the one we're doing tonight. The story of Mac Datho's pig was presented, and this chapter based on the lecture written by Nora Chadwick. Toynbo Cúilge by David Green. Now, we've kind of done, we've touched on it, but Toynbo Cúilge will make a whole series of Live Irish Myths episodes down the line. It's a considerable work. It's a lengthy work, so we'll get there. Tugal Brunja da Derga, I think we did, wasn't it 3 or 4 episodes? The 4, I think it was. Not difficult, that. So we've done that, but that's presented by Maureen O'Daly. Acalo no Shonorach, the colloquy, or the conversation of the ancients, by Gerard Murphy. We've kind of mentioned that briefly, and the other night we were talking about this story about Ishnach when we were talking about Celtic heritage in the last episode of Book Talk. We spoke about the similarity of the well Finn Flescach at Ishnach and the whole story of the Salmon of Knowledge. We pointed out the similarities there. And that was from Achal na Sonorach. Now that the Colloquy of the Ancients is another very lengthy work, so that will make a number of episodes of Live Irish Myths at some point. And maybe we'll come back to Irish Sagas and come back to some of these. Toriacht Diarmada agus Grania, The Pursuit of Diarmid and Grania by R.A. Brannock. We haven't done that. We will probably do a popular translation of that at some point in the near future. I know that a lot of people have requested that one, so we'll do that one. Vicky says, cutting Evan's hair while he's listening. He's a woolly mammoth. Brilliant. I wonder what he's going to look like afterwards. A less woolly mammoth. On YouTube, Oisin McP says, hello, I was wondering if you'd ever consider making an audio version of your books, as it could allow more people to discover the information within them. Oisin, absolutely. I would really love to do that. Yes, 100%. It's just a matter of getting the time. It really is. I definitely think. Sandra McNabb says, be Jesus. Good night, Mr. Murphy, sir. Hello, Sandra. Love the old stunners, me, the watchers. Well, you're welcome along. That's the highlight o' me week. So it is. So it is. August Fogamij Shuad Mar Atashe. Well, I'm Sandra, it's brilliant to have you in the house. And glad to hear that you're enjoying the live streams. I think that's a very interesting and exciting book, says Daisy Peters. I'm not entirely sure what I paid for this, but it wasn't very much. And as always with these things, when you see a book and you see the price and you say, my goodness me, you realize that you're getting a bargain, absolutely. The last two chapters then, Caught My Mukrime, the Battle of the Plain of Mukrime, which we've never done, which will make an episode in the future, and Fingal Ronoin by David Green. So lots of interesting stuff in there. What about Meska Ulad? Also, Carmel asks, yes, yeah, we have to, that's the intoxication of the Ulstermen, isn't it? We have to do that as well, absolutely. See, I said the other night that there's, I reckon, at least another 80 episodes of Live Irish Myths. I reckon we could go to 200. And I'm kind of sitting here thinking, yeah, easily, we could go beyond that. Adele Perth is in the house, and Adele is watching from Adelaide in Australia. Good morning, Tua and Anthony. Well, welcome to the beginning of your week from the end of our week, Adele. It's always a pleasure to see you in the house. Lovely to see you this evening. So, Scéala Mucha Mac Datho by Nora Chadwick. Sure, what are we on? We're not even on half an hour, which is great. These book talks, the idea was originally I was going to do 20 minutes, and then after doing a few, I realized that they're just turning out to be similar in length to Live Irish Myths. I don't think that there's any point in doing really short episodes because, it seems to me from looking at the viewership figures, that there's a steady number throughout. And as soon as people think you've reached the conclusion of the story, you see the numbers dropping off. So people do hang around. It's not like people just dip in and out. Most people do hang around and seem to enjoy. And of course, the interaction between the participants is always a really lovely thing to see. The lectures which you've been listening to in this course will have made it clear to you that Ireland has a richer heritage of saga literature than any other country in the world. What a statement to open up with. And I've been saying this for a long time. I think it's true. Not being a massively well-read student of other mythologies. I have a lot of classical and Greek mythological works on the shelves behind me, and some other bits and pieces pertaining to other mythologies of the world. And it would seem to me that that claim definitely stands, doesn't it? Ireland has a richer heritage of saga literature than any other country in the world. The number of prose stories preserved in early manuscripts is enormous, to say nothing of numerous variant versions. The range and variety of subjects is even more astonishing, as the examples in the present course also show. Vicky says, we simply love it. Brilliant. The heroic sagas, which relate to the prowess of the heroes of the far past, are perhaps the most numerous. And this gives us a clue as to which were the choice favourites of the Irish professional storytellers and their audience. This is the class of sagas to which the story of Mac Datho's pig belongs. Of course, she was in her opening statement talking about saga literature. She wasn't even referring to, for instance, Dinshanicus onomastic or place name lore. She wasn't talking about annals, of which there are huge... there's a huge breadth of material. She wasn't talking about the law tracts, again, of which there is a considerable quantity. This is just the saga literature. I mean, it's phenomenal. It really is. The love of the Irish, of the ancient world for heroic and historical sagas is clearly stated in the latest of them, which relates to the Battle of Allen, fought in 722 between the High King of all Ireland and the Provincial King of Leinster. We are told here that the High King's army agreed to march if a certain Dunbow went with them. For Dunbow was the best teller of king stories in the world. Dunbow means the brown cow or the brown bull. He refused to recite on the first occasion when called upon, however, and his place was taken by Hugh Maglini, who is described as Ri Drua Éireann, who is said to have begun reciting the battles and variant deeds of the northern half of Ireland and of Leinster from the destruction of Dinreag down to his own time. By the way, Ri Drua Éireann would be the King Druid of Ireland. In other words, his repertoire was comprehensive and the excellence of his professional manner of recital was without equal. It's such a pleasure to be able to join you all before heading to work. Adele, I hope that things are good in Australia. We are entering further restrictions now. I was just saying there at the beginning. We're already in phase 3 lockdown, or what do they call it? Not phase, category, stage 3. I can't remember the phrase. But it looks like we're going to at least stage 4, if not stage 5, which is the maximum. So it's going to be a dicey situation for the next 6 weeks here in Ireland. Our numbers have skyrocketed. Miriam Eckhart says, always a treat to come online and find this lovely engagement is happening. Keeps my mind well. Brilliant. As it does mine too, Miriam. And of course, it is always lovely to have the company. This high standard of memory and of art must have done much to keep alive the history and the historical conditions of the heroic age. It gives form and body to the laconic notes attached to the royal names, in the genealogical poems of Munster and Leinster, but especially of Leinster. And that, of course, is the province in the east of Ireland, the one in which I live. Poems which have been preserved from the 7th and even from the 6th centuries. Indeed, the nucleus of the ancient traditions has been so well preserved that we are in danger of forgetting that the attitude of the saga teller to his subject and his artistic methods gradually changed. At times, his own political views colour his presentation of the facts. And this, again, is interesting because it touches upon subjects that we've been talking about recently. Most notably, and I'm going to find the episode number for you. I think it was episode 119 of Live Irish Myths, was the one entitled Scribes, Kings, and Manuscripts. How it was that, as ostensibly pagan mythology came to be written by ecclesiastical scribes. And we talked about the relationship between kings and ecclesiastical leaders, which is particularly important to understanding why this occurred. It has been said that church and state were close in 20th century Ireland, but the relationship between religion and politics goes much further back, as we investigated in episode 119. Now, sure, I'll share the link to that just on the off chance. I see some names here that I haven't seen before. So if you haven't seen the series, perhaps you might be interested in going back. All of the previous videos for Book Talk, this is episode 4 of Book Talk. I think it might be episode 5. And all of the 120 episodes of Live Irish Myths that we've been doing are all archived on both Facebook, on facebook.com/Mythical Ireland, and also on YouTube at youtube.com/Mythical Ireland. So if you've just joined us, you have probably all told, you probably have the best part of 200 hours of material to listen to. Now, some of that is me saying hello to people and people saying hello back, which is a wonderful part of the whole experience. Where was I? Yes, at times his own political views colour his presentation of the facts. We shall see that the views of the author of our saga are against Ulster and favour Connacht. Ulster being the province of the north, Connacht being the province of the west. And of course, the fourth, and there is a fifth province, which is Uisneach, and we spoke about that in many episodes. But the missing major geographical province here is Munster in the south. The Ulster storytellers had their great prose epic, the Táin Bó Cúailnge, the Cattle Raid of Cúailnge. So the storytellers of the other provinces felt that they must try to do as well for their own people. So there's a bit of competition going on here between the provinces, inter-provincial rivalry, something that continues to this day with our Gaelic football teams. But indeed, at the time of the story of Mac Datho's pig was composed, the storyteller does not even take the political issues very seriously. What he liked was a good tale, and he knew how to tell one. Barbara Murphy says, I've wondered the same thing. Yeah, it's a very deep and interesting subject. The Scéala Muiche Mac Datho, Tidings of Mac Datho's Pig, or the story, Scéala, story, as our earliest version calls it, is one of the most brilliantly told of the early Irish sagas. And it purports to give a picture of the old heroic life in Ireland and its warlike spirit. It is a very early story, probably composed in its present form about 800 AD. And we've been talking about this, isn't it? Haven't we, for a long time, about, yes, composed in its present form, but how long did it exist in purely oral form, you know? Excuse me while I take a sip. Wet the lips. The scene of the story and its familiarity with Kildare suggests that the author belonged to Leinster and inherited its fine heroic tradition. Nick Feary is in the house, says, love to learn all about this. And I admire your knowledge. Thank you. Well, Nick, I stand on the shoulders of giants. That's all I can say. And the giants in this case are Miles Dillon and his companions, his colleagues, Nora Chadwick. But the story of Mac Datho's pig is a more sophisticated production than the Battle of Allen. It belongs to the early period of the Viking regime. And this may have done something to substitute laconic humour and a spirit of ripe burlesque for the dignity and poetical beauty which makes the story of Dunbow and the Battle of Allen, to me, the most exquisite treasure of the Irish sagas. The story of Mac Datho's pig has been preserved in at least 6 manuscripts. The Book of Leinster, written about 1160, is the earliest. Laura Nohoval, or Nuchonvala, as I would pronounce it, probably mistakenly. Robin Rickman is saying, good evening from Pennsylvania. Hello, Robin. Welcome along. Sláinte. The best form of the story is preserved in this version. And in H.3.18, some of the manuscripts are just given letters and numbers, in the paper leaves, now in Trinity College, Dublin. And in Harley 5280, again, these are just references to manuscript definitions or titles, written in the first half of the 16th century and now in the British Museum. But these 3 texts are independent of one another. They seem to be derived from a common source, which was itself a transcript of a previous version, believed from its language to date from about 800. A 4th version, Rawlinson B.512, was written in the 15th century and is preserved in the Bodleian Library at Oxford. This is less accurate and less conservative than the first 3. There are 2 further manuscripts, one in the National Library of Scotland, NSXXXVI, that's 36 to you and I, and another H.6.8 in Trinity College, Dublin. These represent a modernisation of the story, perhaps made in the 16th century. So it is clear that the story has been a favourite from the earliest times, almost to the time of our great-grandfathers, and even in our own day, the late Professor Tomás O'Malley, that's Thomas O'Malley in English, if you want, of Galway, has retold the story in a delightful modern version. I'm trying to expand. I hate when I do that. I'm trying to expand a comment, and sorry, I apologise. Bernadette McCafferty says there are 5 provinces covering the island of Ireland, further divided into 32 counties. Ulster has 9 counties, so on and so forth. Each of the provinces would have been governed by a high king. Yes, indeed. The theme of the story, the central point on which the narrative turns, is the champion's portion. The right of the greatest champion at a feast to receive the Curadmere, the hero's portion. from a great central cauldron containing the communal supply. Naturally, where a great body of heroes are gathered together, this distinction never passes unchallenged. And a claimant must make good his right, first of all by producing his own credentials, boasting his own deeds of valour, and secondly by quashing the objections and counterclaims made by his opponents and rivals. If he does not succeed in making good his claim, the matter may be taken to arbitration, and this, as we have seen, is what happened at Brickrew's Feast. Sounds like a modern-day dispute between workers and their union and their employers, doesn't it? It goes to arbitration, the labour court. Indeed, something like a burlesque of arbitration occurs at the close of our own story, where it is claimed that the men of Connacht received too small a share, and Mac Datho loses his dog on them all in the hope that its sagacity will lead it to bite the right party. But this is anticipating our story. What I want to emphasize here before proceeding to tell the tale is the antiquity of its theme. It is probably the most anciently attested of all Celtic stories. Among the ancient Celtic peoples, just as in heroic society elsewhere even today, the most important of all social functions is the communal feast, which is always an occasion of high ceremony. Accounts of these heroic feasts among the ancient Celtic peoples on the continent have been left to us by many ancient writers, notably Athenaeus, who derived his information from Posidonius, and Posidonius, not Poseidon, I'm thinking of Poseidon. And these accounts of Gaulish feats, are so similar to those of ancient Ireland that some of them could be transferred into an Irish saga without causing the least surprise. Listen, for example, to Diodorus Siculus writing of the Gauls. Quote, "When they dine, they have hearths with big fires and cauldrons and spits loaded with big joints of meat. They honour distinguished men with the best portions of the meat. And when they are dining, some of the company often fall into an altercation and challenge one another to single combat." Sounds like a modern-day backroom in an Irish pub. "They make nothing of death." Well, okay, maybe the analogy was a little bit far off there. "Whenever anyone will accept their challenges, they set about glorifying the valour of their forefathers and boasting of their own prowess. And at the same time, they deride and belittle their opponent and try by their speeches to rob him of all the courage he has in his heart." Sounds like modern-day Western politics, doesn't it? Say no more. So also in our Irish saga of Mac Datho's pig, we see the feast with the heroes seated around great cauldrons, the bravest of them in the middle of the circle. We see the champion's portion consisting of a whole hind quarter of pork. Do you know that scene in Lord of the Rings where Gimli says, somebody mentioned, and you can see him licking his lips, salted pork? And the rivalry among the heroes for such honour portions. Here too we hear of the fantastic value set on bravery, which also found its echo in Brickrew's Feast. In the story of Mac Datho's pig, the contest for the champion's portion lies between the royal provinces of Connacht and of Ulster, and resolves itself finally into the rivalry of two heroes, Ketch MacMagach of Connacht and Conall Cernach of Ulster. We are among the personnel of the great prose epic, the Táin Bó Cúailnge, but with the notable difference that Cuchulainn is never mentioned. Since the saga makes mention of some 30 heroes, the omission cannot be accidental. It is probably an indication of the antiquity of the tradition of our story before the development of the Cuchulainn cycle. However that may be, our laughing storyteller turns both these great rival dynasties to ridicule by the cunning of Mac Datho, King of Leinster. And again, we are tempted to conjecture that our story is inspired by the claim of Leinster to supersede both Ulster and Connacht. It is significant that Mac Datho claims to derive his wisdom from the legendary High King Crimthon Nia Noir, who was believed to be reigning when Christ was born, according to the Irish annalists, and who lies buried on the hill of Howth, that's Ben Ether, overlooking Dublin Bay. Crimthon possessed many famous treasures besides his wisdom, among them a pair of greyhounds. One wonders if Mac Datho's famous hound laid claim to this pedigree. Monica Regley says, thrilling. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Fantastic. Karen Goga says, Gimli is the most Irish hero in Lord of the Rings. He's brilliant. What is he when they're running across Rohan? Is it Rohan after the Uruk High? And he's out of breath, and the lads, Legolas and Aragorn, are running ahead, and he's totally out of breath. He says, "Us dwarves are natural sprinters. We're not made for cross country." Mac Datho, so the story goes, was a famous king of Leinster who possessed a hound, Alve, Ailbe. Paul Garron is not in the house. Paul, ding-a-ling-a-ling, take note. There's a reason I'm saying that, which he will understand when he watches the replay. I'll probably get a message from him tomorrow at some stage. Just been watching Book Talk. Yeah. Alva defended the whole province and was renowned throughout Ireland. Ailill and Maeve, king and queen of Connacht, sent messengers to Mac Datho, demanding the dog. But at the same time, messengers arrived from Conchobar or Crohor, king of Ulster, making the same demand. Remember that it was Ailill and Maeve's plot to take the great brown bull of Cooley from the Ulstermen that caused the Toynbee Cooling. Dwarves, very dangerous over short distances, says Kristen Gray Taggart. Kelly Edmiston is in the house, says bedtime story, yay. Kelly, where in the world are you at the moment? Because you can't be in the States. It's not bedtime in the States. You must be in Europe somewhere, are you? Oh, you're in Scotland, isn't it? Mac Datho was in a dilemma. Sleep and appetite deserted him. At this point, we have a poem in dialogue between himself and his wife. Who better to talk to about your dilemmas than your partner? She has observed her husband's restlessness and loss of interest in his food and asks what ails him. At first, he refuses to tell her and brusquely declares that Crimthon Nia Noir has said you should never tell your secrets to a woman. Apparently not even your wife. But he gives way under pressure. I could sort of interject. I could suggest a nagging wife trope there, but somebody will hit me across the head, and justifiably so I won't. And his wife hits on the really brilliant solution. He must promise the dog to both parties and let them fight it out themselves. See, the woman is always right. Listen to the woman. And we've been saying that since the early episodes of Live Irish Myths. Listen to the woman. Kelly says Scotland till October the 28th. Then wonderful Copenhagen, baby. Brilliant. Oh, well, I hope you enjoy that. Brilliant. Copenhagen, it's going to be a bit cold. But sure, look, it's going to be cold in Scotland too. You might as well be in Ireland if you're in Scotland. Sure, we're all the same. Now comes an inimitable passage of compressed humour. Mac Datho takes the messengers from Connacht aside privately and gravely announces that after much anxious perplexity, he has decided to give the hound to Ailill and Maeve, and he bids them come to receive it formally. He then takes aside the messengers from Ulster and makes the same promise to Conchobar with the same condition. Both parties are secretly trysted by him for the same day, and both duly arrive simultaneously at the door of Mac Datho's hall. Mendaciously, Mac Datho expresses his surprise. "We did not expect you, but come along in, all of you." And he assigns them seats on opposite sides of the hall. Bernadette McCafferty says, "Happy wife, happy life." You got it right, Bernadette. What can I say? We are not surprised to be told that the faces were not those of friends at a feast which were in that house. Mac Datho, with masterly indifference to the electric atmosphere, acts as his own steward, blandly welcoming his guests to a superb pig which he has slaughtered for them. It is Brickroo, the usual instigator of strife, who suggests that the pig be divided in proportion to the respective deeds and valour of the heroes present. "Let it be done," says Ailill, king of Connacht. Ooh, this is a long one. I better hurry up. Very proper, says Concobar, but then he ignites the straw by reminding Ailill that there are heroes present among his Ulstermen who have raided the borders between the two kingdoms of Ulster and Connacht. At first, the challenge is taken up by the heroes of Westminster, who are on the side of Connacht. Before long, one of their number, Ket MacMagach, makes good his claim to supremacy and takes knife in hand and sits down beside the pig. At this point, he offers combat to any hero who shall gainsay his right to divide. Each after each, the heroes of Ulster stand up to deny his supremacy, but ever and anon, Ketch shames them to silence by a well-aimed jibe at some defeat and humiliation in the past of every one of them. And the whole worldly contest takes up the greater part of the saga. We are thus presented dramatically with a rather unusual catalogue of the engagements in which the heroes of Ulster have been defeated in the past. And in this manner, says the story, Ket flouted the whole province. But just as he is flourishing his knife with intent to divide the pig, who should bound into the house but the great Ulster champion, Conall Cernach. The men of Ulster give a roar of welcome, but Conall remarks coolly, I am glad that my portion is ready for me. Who is he who is doing the dividing out for you? An obscure dialogue in the most archaic form of Irish poetry called rhetoric now takes place between Conall and Ketch. And at the end, Ketch reluctantly acknowledges Conall, the greater hero, regretfully adding that if a certain Anluan had been present, he would have challenged Conall. He is present, though, cries Conall, who at this point takes the head of Anluan, which is hanging at his belt, and flings it at his opponent. Ooh, nasty stuff. We here remind ourselves that headhunting was a prevalent practice among the ancient Gauls. This is the climax of the feast. There is no further challenge, and Conall goes to make division of the pig, himself devouring the hind quarters, a load for 9 men. And a champion's portion indeed. He gives to the men of Connacht only the 4 quarters, F-O-R-E. Now, the men of Connacht, you know that in the terminology of slaughtering animals for meat, there's such thing as a 5th quarter. Do you know that? I learned that. I work, in my day job for the Irish Farmers Journal. I learned that there is actually a reference to what's called 5th quarter. Only in Ireland. Now the men of Connacht resent the smallness of their portion, and a turmoil arises. Mac Datho sees his chance and looses the hound Alva at the combatants, trusting it to make its own choice as to which party it will attack. Both parties burst out of the house and away, and the hound gives chase and sets to slaughtering the men of Connacht. But Ferloga, the royal charioteer of Connacht, rides it down with his chariot, splitting its head on the chariot pole. Here we get a touch of antiquarianism dear to the ancient Irish, for we are told that Mai Nalve, Alva's Plain, the valley of the River Barrow, takes its name from this incident. Both the parties of Connacht and of Ulster are now in full flight, and their course is traced northwards through Kildare and Rathangan and westwards through Meath. At this point, the Connacht charioteer Ferloga hides in the heather, and as Conchobar's chariot approaches, he springs up behind him and seizes him around the throat. Buy your freedom now, Conchobar, he cries. Make your own terms, replies Conchobar. What else could he say? This it is, says Ferloga. The young women of Ulster must sing every night for a year. Ferloga is my darling. Thus it was, and at the end of the year, Conchobar was fain to send him back to Connacht, loaded with presents. The sympathies of the storyteller remain hostile to Ulster to the end. The tale is told with brilliant narrative power. Terse and humorous, with laconic brevity, it reminds us of the Icelandic sagas at their best. The dialogue in particular is masterly in its understatement and crisp repartee. And in the few remarks made by Mac Datho to his visitors, all his previous train of thought, all his cunning and address are suggested in a few brief words intended by him to hide his true designs from his guests, while suggesting to ourselves his hidden intention. Throughout the story, not a word is wasted, no statement is expanded. The utmost condensation and economy have produced a little gem of a tale. Yet, With all its literary finish, the story is essentially a tale to be told. The movement is swift. There is a total absence of reflection. The narrative aims at arousing and riveting attention and exciting interest, and not at stimulating thought. The storyteller makes use of the element of surprise, of quick developments and dramatic moments. He seeks to impress by rapid crescendo to a startling climax and a shock when Keich reluctantly gives precedence to Conall Cernach in the absence of Anluan. If Anluan were in the house, he would offer you yet another contest. It is a pity for us that he is not in the house. He is, though, said Conall, taking the head of Anlua from his belt. Seems like we're repeating something here. And hurling it at the breast of his opponent with such violence that a gush of blood burst through Keich's lips. The warlike spirit and crude customs of heroic society are vividly brought before us in this lively little tale. It is essentially a story for men. Pardon me, it's a woman who's writing this, by the way. The heroic details of Ketch's previous encounters with the Ulster heroes are calculated to appeal to men rather than to women. Women, indeed, play very little part. We are in the atmosphere of an ancient, heroic clubroom. What a contrast to the refined and delicately handled story of Yochi and Ethane and their supernatural adventures with the god Midger in the she-mound of Bree, or to the poetical beauty of the story of Deirdre and the sons of Ishnach, or even to the later cycle of the stories of Finn and his heroes, stories of life in the open, of hunting and romance, and of the magi and prowess of a simpler and less organised society than that of Mac Datho's feast. The gulf that separates these stories from our own and from one another is some measure of the range of theme which the early Irish storytellers had at their command. Stephen Walker is in the house. Hello, Stephen. Welcome along. Marianne Kinja. Just saw you were live. How nice. Hi all. Hello, Marianne. Welcome along. It's brilliant to see you. Truske Den Bells, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I do apologize. Says, good evening from the Netherlands. Hello. Welcome along. But the picture given us in the story of Mac Datho's pig is not a wholly savage one. There is more than a touch of humorous hyperbole in Conall's throwing the head of Anluan at Keich. The feast is conducted according to strict rules. A recognised etiquette is observed. Certain rules of precedence and fair play are the order of the day. The fact that these regulations and conventions are portrayed in their breakdown does not alter the fact of their implication. The story of Mac Datho's pig is a glorious travesty of the ancient world by one who honoured and laughed at its traditions. The composer of our story must have been an intellectual with a right... Get it right, Anthony. Sorry, take two. The composer of our story must have been an intellectual with a wide range of literary knowledge. Within the small compass of this brief tale, he introduces many literary conventions well known from other sagas. Besides the themes of the champion's portion, the boasting and challenging at feasts, the stupendous appetite of the hero, there are a number of conventions of literary technique. We have seen that the place name speculation has its part to play, and the geographical details of Alva's route as the hound gives chase to the royal guests recalls the course taken by the boar, which I can't pronounce, TWRCH, TRWYTH. Twitch. Some of the Welsh scholars are slapping their faces right now. In the Welsh 11th century story of Culwich and Olwen, and in Irish Dinshanachus stories, the reference to the ancient High King Crimthon Niat Nóir as a sage is particularly interesting. Then there's the dialogue poem between Keich and Conall in archaic rhetorics, and a dialogue poem between Mac Datho and his wife in the later strophic form of rhyme and assonance. The rhetorics are doubtless older than the saga, and the storyteller was evidently well acquainted with all matter relative to his story, as well as with all fashions and conventions current in early Irish literature. The story itself seems to have been well known in literary circles. Even before the period of our earliest manuscript text in the Book of Leinster, an organ Mac Datho is included in the list of príomhscéala, or primary stories or chief stories, which the Fili or professional poets of ancient Ireland used to relate to kings and chiefs. The list itself is probably of 10th century date, but the tale is mentioned in a poem by Flanacán Mac Celach, who is said to have been slain by the Norsemen in 896. And that's fascinating because they're correctly referring to the Vikings in the 9th century as Norse and not Danish, because the latest DNA studies have shown, as you will have read on the Mythical Ireland blog recently, the DNA studies have shown that Irish Vikings were largely descended from Norwegian Vikings, and English Vikings were largely descended from the Danish. The hostel of Mac Datho is one of a number cited in a poem on the halls or hostels, brúine, of ancient Ireland. The story was evidently much liked in later times also, for it forms the subject of a number of independent poems. None of these seem to be based directly on the text of our saga, and indeed I suspect that they are inspired by a different version of the story. For instance, in two of the poems, the real hero is not the dog Ailve, but the pig, and this is probably an original feature, for it is implied in the title of the story of Mac Datho's pig. One of the poems is practically a panegyric on the pig, and a panegyric, of course, is a poem or a song in praise of someone, or in this case, something, or some animal. A pig is a strange hero for a story, even a grand big fellow like the one which supplies Mac Datho's feast. But we remember the great boar, I can't pronounce it, I really can't, in the Welsh medieval story, which gave so much trouble to King Arthur and his men. And in the Irish glossary of Cormac, Sanash Cormac, which we're going to do an episode of Live Irish Myths on very soon, King of Cashel, this same pig, Truth, is said to be in reality a prince. I'm going to be extremely embarrassed when some of the Welsh speakers correctly tell me how that's pronounced. Nothing like how I've pronounced it. The poetical aspirations of our story have quite a lot of additional matter to tell us too. The name of Mac Datho's wife is given, and those of his two sons and of his grandson Lena, who originally found the pig in Shlea of Bloom, and was responsible for its nourishment till it had 7 inches of fat on its snout. A poor return it was the pig made him by grubbing up earth with its snout and burying him alive in his sleep. Mac Datho's wife, Mac Datho, needed the pig for her husband's great feast. Lena had refused it, but on his death, Mac Datho swineherd Fulskia duly delivered the pig to his master. We can see from this how much our saga has omitted and how much was known from elsewhere. There can be no doubt that the entire story has been subject to wide variation. Its close analogy to Brickrew's feast is universally recognised, yet not easy to explain. In Brickrew's feast, the story again turns on the champion's portion and the dispute as to the hero who has a right to it. But there the decision is taken to arbitration, and a sophisticated element is introduced by the dispute and unseemly struggle for precedence carried on between the wives of the heroes. There also, the ultimate decision in favour of Cuchulainn as champion suggests a later version than that of our story. What is its relationship to our saga? Can oral tradition transform variant versions of an identical theme into two stories differing as widely as these? ? One thing we can say with confidence: our prose saga of Mac Datho's pig is a work of art of high quality in its own right. Without a touch of romance, without the glamour of magic or of the supernatural, almost without antiquarian elements, it holds us throughout by its swift, unflagging narrative, the rapid pitch and toss of its dialogue, the brilliant quality of the dramatic presentation. Never has the tradition of the Irish heroic age received a more compelling form, so much so that an earlier generation of scholars looked upon it as a direct and truthful presentation of the warlike spirit of its time. Yet Irish court life was never really like this, nor are we much nearer the truth in calling it a parody. Perhaps we may say, rather, that a literary genius has presented us with a well-preserved heroic tradition seen through the prismatic lens of a later age. He brings to his theme a ripe sophistication, a concentrated irony, and a gay and light-hearted hyperbole. He puts criticism out of court and compels the hearer to his own mood by the sheer force of his high-spirited and unerring narrative gift. Kristen Gray Taggart says, now I'm picturing the Muppets acting out this story, and it's so weird. Yeah, fantastic stuff. Really well written, that. Of course, Nora Chadwick was a wonderful scholar, but also had a fabulous command of the English language, not to mention early Irish as well. So I hope you enjoyed that. That is Scéala Mac Datho, Scéala Mac Datho, the story of Mac Datho's pig. Just want to mark that again. Sorry. From Irish Sagas, edited by Miles Dillon. I wonder how many of you have ordered that already, or how many of you already have it on your shelves. So there was a habit of producing in book form lecture series that had been transmitted on Irish radio in the 20th century. And I think we're very, very lucky for that, because it's much easier to archive something like that in book form for posterity than it is in audible form. I mean, before the internet, of course, if you didn't catch it on the radio, you probably had to go to the RTE archives in Dublin to get back. Welsh pronunciation, 33. That doesn't help because I just can't read that, Linda. I apologize. I'm sorry. Maybe give it to us phonetically. You know that, of course, it would be lovely, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be lovely to be able to go back in time and to hear the storytellers of medieval times, the storytellers of the Middle Ages, and hear them in their own language, in their own mitre, with their own tones and musicality and their own delivery and performance. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But unfortunately, well, I say unfortunately, we can't, but we're very, very, very grateful. And it's one thing that I will never apologize for, as you know, at this stage, and some people have taken me to task for it quite severely, by the way, is the fact that we owe it to those ecclesiastical scribes of the Middle Ages who wrote so much of the stuff down that otherwise would have been lost, regardless of what happened to the church later, and regardless of the scandals that engulfed it in more recent times. You can't compare the medieval church with the modern church, because that would be comparing apples and oranges. So that's tonight's book talk. Thank you all for tuning in. Janet Moran says, such a treat, Anthony. Glad you enjoyed it, Janet. Aaron Durrett says, that was so fun. Thanks, Anthony. Lovely to see you, Aaron. We missed you there for a while. I know you were away, but it's great to see you back. Anne McCallum, a superbly brilliant story and so well read, Anthony. Just magic. Wonderful, Anne. Glad you enjoyed yourself. See you all for Mythflix tomorrow. Oh, yeah, I have to decide what that's about. I might do the oak tree. We have to go back to trees. And I think a few people were saying trees. Didn't we? We didn't do the oak tree, didn't we not? We did the hawthorn, and we did the. Hang on, I'll tell you now what we did. We did the yew tree. We did the hawthorn or whitethorn, and we did the hazel. Yes. So the oak tree is probably going to be tomorrow's episode. So fingers crossed. Yes, more trees, says Laura Puente. Thanks for the story, Anthony, says Kristen. No problem. Bernadette McCafferty, thank you. You're very welcome, everybody. A lovely end to the day. Thanks, Anthony, says Nick Eska Casterton. Thanks, Nick. Kathy Maydeo says, darn, I just got home and got in on the very end of the goodbyes. Not to worry, Kathy. The video will be available shortly, so you can listen back. See you all tomorrow, Tua and Mr. Anthony, she says. No problem. Bernadette McCafferty, yes, please. Donna Jean Porter, yes, love trees. Erin Durrett, oak trees, yes. Okay, that seems to be. Veronica Casey, the mighty oak, that seems to be definitely tomorrow's episode then. I think I've committed myself firmly to that. Federica Guy says, Goramahagot, Anthony, good night. Slánga fól, Ichawa. Linda says, Goramahagot, enjoyed this. Thank you. Kelly says, oak, please. So I think that is definitely a quorum. No, that is definitely a firm vote in favour. So, in the meantime, don't forget to keep behaving yourselves. Do what you can to counter this drastic pandemic. Joe Butler says, thank you and hope to join you tomorrow. Brilliant stuff, Joe. Wonderful to see you, by the way. Maya Miller says, I just love you have talked nonstop throughout lockdown. Is that a good thing? My wife mightn't agree. Never mind. That was a poor joke. Yeah, keep washing your hands and using hand sanitizer, sneeze and cough into the crook of your elbow, and wear a face mask when you're around people. Simple as that. Restrict your movements if you can. But look, try not to restrict yourself so much that you end up suffering from cabin fever, because another thing that I've been talking about is the drastic effect on people's mental health that this situation has undoubtedly been having. And that is a whole pandemic of itself, quite apart from COVID-19. Which is serious enough. So keep yourselves safe and well in the meantime. Talk to you all tomorrow night, same time. No, it's actually not the same time because we started late tonight, 8 p.m. Irish time, but I will announce it earlier on in the day. We'll see you then for live Irish Myths. In the meantime, Cholo Sov, sound sleep, Ichawa, good night, Slánga fól. Bye for now. And my favourite of all, the Irish phrases. Joanna Wolf says, can't wait, love from USA. See you tomorrow, Joanne. And Mark Munoz is saying thanks. Ichawa says ancient Gael. Sandrine Brady, thanks, Anthony. We didn't do the oak tree for sure. Great. See you tomorrow night. Brilliant stuff. Daisy Peters, see you tomorrow. Have a nice and bright night. Same to all. And Marianne, bye. See you tomorrow. Good stuff. My favourite of all the Irish phrases, Tog Gubogay. Take it easy. See you all tomorrow.